Well, hello there, my SATC fans. Have you missed it? Have you missed these analyses and these videos? My last 3 videos were in a totally different direction. I mean, kind of different. It's still like relationships, but it went crazy real fast. By the way, some of you ask, like, what is that? Is it a blanket? Is it like, I love the comment. This is literally my best friend. These are the types of friendships you have when you're working on your own. It's a robe. So the last time we went through the struggles of Carrie answering the question, to tell or not to tell. She's been cheating with Big. Natasha found out. They stopped the affair, but there was someone still lurking in the darkness, waiting for her to come clean. At the end, Aiden found out, and despite loving Carrie dearly, he let go and walked away. Looking at the big picture, Carrie is at least done with the whole shenanigans of cheating and affairs and sneaking around. Or is she? You see, there is still one person Carrie needs to face. Natasha. Because when Carrie thinks her life is under attack, when she feels like that karma is out to get her, oh, best believe she gonna get that forgiveness. Because it's the right thing to do, of course. Carrie always does what is the right thing to do for her. I mean, for others. You already know how we do here. We narrate, we analyze, we often judge, and we always pretend to know better and would do better. Hopefully. Carrie is having lunch with the girls, and as she is nibbling on that salad, Natasha walks in. They lock eyes, and Natasha is like, Biz, I am not doing this. So she walks out, and Carrie is shook. She cannot believe there is a person in New York that could actually hate her that much.
I can't believe that there's a person in New York who could hate me that much.
Sweetie, what do you mean? What do you mean? You were cheating with her husband. Is that context enough? Look, according to Carrie, people should know that she just made a very big mistake a couple of times. And at the end of the day, she is not a bad person. She's actually a very nice person. She is good. I mean, mistakes are a part of life, right? It's strange, no? It's strange that Carrie, in this case, is surprised that Natasha doesn't like her. And she's like, shocked. How can she be so mad at me? She cannot even look at me. After lunch, Carrie is walking down the street and she kind of gets a little bit lost. She doesn't even know how she ended up in the street, so she asks a guy to help her. Well, you know where this is going. No, you don't. It is a freaking robbery. People, if you remember this scene, this was hilarious. It was like Carrie was foreshadowing today's generation. How Gen Z would react if they get kidnapped. Oh, I'm getting kidnapped? Yes, daddy. It's actually very disturbing. The guy points a gun at her and he's like, give me your bag. And Carrie is a bit like confused. It's a baguette.
What?
Your bag.
It's a baguette.
Oh, she's taking off her jewelry and she's giving the bag and then he asks for unthinkable.
And your Manolo Blahniks.
No.
Carrie is upset. She is barefoot and she runs into the nearest barber shop. She enters and she's like, I've been robbed. What is this? What? No one is like, oh my God, sweetie, are you okay? How can we No, people do not care. And something starts creeping into Carrie's mind. Is this her punishment? Is this the karma coming after her? Making sure Carrie pays for what she did to Natasha. Carrie feeling invisible by everyone. Even the cop who's supposed to help her but is busy flirting with Miranda makes her think about karma. Does everything that goes around really come back around? If you're bad in one relationship, are you doomed to be treated badly in another one? She's going to a party with Samantha, and Samantha has a little secret to tell her. Natasha left big. Carrie is shook. The marriage is over.
Oh my God.
She cannot believe that she is responsible for breaking up a marriage. And I'm like, Biz, what? Chill, woman. You were not the reason why the marriage ended. A nice companion to help with it.
I can't believe believe I'm responsible for breaking up their marriage.
It's a little bit comical showing that Carrie believes that she is the reason that the marriage ended, as though Big only cheated because it was Carrie, failing to see that Big would probably cheat in any case. I mean, it's what he did also in the first marriage. So it's not about you, sweetie. Basically showing that she's still very much delusional of who Big is. It's not that he did it because of Carrie, he did it because he wanted to, with Carrie or with someone else. Samantha tries to comfort her and tell her that it's not her fault. The marriage would have ended in any way. What is this buzzing here? It was me.
I think I could feel any worse.
She also falls down the stairs, and that is it. That is the confirmation she needed. Karma is out to get her. First, she got robbed. And second, she fell the same way Natasha fell when she, discovered them cheating. And that is something Carrie is not gonna take on, okay? She is like, Bisno, Karma, I'm grabbing you and I'm putting you down. So Carrie does what Carrie does best. Butts herself into other people's lives just so she can feel better. She calls Natasha.
I decided to take matters into my own hands.
Floor, Natasha's desk, Kathy speaking.
Yes, I'd like to speak to Natasha, please.
People, I was watching this and I was a little bit confused. Like, are they really? Is this really how the writers decided to paint Carrie? Like, being this bad and this delusional. Now she wants to call Natasha and now she wants to ask for forgiveness because she feels like, she's gonna get punished in some way. They're really pushing this narrative of how Carrie is very selfish. Then again, isn't this the natural tendency of us people? When we tend to kind of, ignore things until it starts hurting us, until what you did to someone else comes back to haunt you, then suddenly you want to make peace. Then suddenly you want to do the right thing. Please. She calls Natasha at her work, and Natasha doesn't want to take her call. Carrie's shook it even more. She calls her 7 times and Natasha still does not return the call. And you know what? It sucks. It sucks when you want to push someone to forgive you and they do not do that. I mean, the audacity. Carrie needs to be forgiven because she cannot live with the idea of being hated, of someone actually hating her, because her whole persona is about how everyone likes her, how she is this fun, cool, good person. So if there is someone in New York, and not only someone, but someone who has connections up high, hating on her, well, that's bad for business. That's how I see the whole situation. At the end of the day, if Natasha was in Carrie's mind a nobody in some way, I wonder how much guilt Carrie would feel and how much she would want to get Natasha forgiveness. But because Carrie always felt intimidated by Natasha, and now she even did this, right? She was the mistress. She feels like she is gonna get fucked by this, okay? It's like that episode with Samantha where Samantha was sleeping with all these husbands and then the women actually had more power than Samantha and Samantha was forced to go and apologize to them because otherwise she would lose her, social status and so on. I think it's kind of the same thing. Samantha was much more upfront about it. She's like, damn it, my business is hurting because of this. Well, Carrie is more like, oh my God, I'm not a bad person, I promise. It's the same freaking thing, okay? It's for their own benefit, period. And if you ever come across someone like this in real life, do not even play into it, okay? Shut it down. Let them deal with their shit on their own. You are not responsible for them to feel better because they hurt you. No. In this case, Carrie was very confident and capable of hurting Natasha multiple times, okay? So why the fuck should Natasha now grab that olive branch that Carrie is literally pushing into her? But what will she do? What does one do when the other person keeps ignoring them? Well, you ambush them, okay? You find out where are they hanging, okay? Maybe some spying action. And then you force them to confront you and forgive you, okay? That's what you do. Take matters into your own hands, boss lady. Desperate times call for desperate measures, I guess. She shows up at the place Natasha is having lunch. She pulled in some strings. She found out from the assistant, by the assistant, where Natasha has lunch. And she's like, I'm going there. And if you're someone who feels like they can do whatever, they can invade another person's privacy, cross the boundaries, not take no for an answer because you feel bad, you need to take accountability. You need to take responsibility and say, what the F am I doing? Not only have I hurt this person, but I keep on hurting this person by wanting to feel better myself. If you think that you're doing it because it's the right thing to do and you should do it, you're being delusional. That's not it. You are again being driven by your own selfish reasons. Stop sending the text. Stop trying to get the call. Stop enforcing yourself in someone hearing you out when they don't have to. And the fact that you did something, deal with it. Try to understand what did even push you to go there. What are your wrong beliefs and values that are driving you to act in that way? To betray, for example, someone, to be abusive to someone. Really think about what you can do by yourself, on yourself, for yourself. But don't try to force the other person to do that, okay? It is not fair. It is, again, you acting very selfishly.
I need to talk to you.
I'm going to scream.
Oh, please don't. I'm only going to stay a minute.
But she's a little bit anxious, so she asks if she can take a sip of water that Natasha is drinking. And I'm like, what? What now? Can you imagine? Can you imagine a person? Let's really play into Natasha. Your man cheated on you with another woman, right? And this woman now comes to your table. She needs to talk to you, but she also kind of needs to take the drink that you bought or ordered, that it's for you in this lunch. By the way, my stomach is going wild. What about if it's the metaphor for how Carrie is crossing Natasha's boundaries and how Carrie is just taking whatever she needs? Natasha clearly showed that she does not want to interact with her. So Carrie just shows up where Natasha is, invaded her, in a way, private space. By taking the water and saying, oh, I need something to drink before I talk to you, shows again how she actually doesn't have respect towards Natasha's, let's say, in this case, belongings in some way. She doesn't really respect Natasha. What she respects is how she will get hurt if Natasha doesn't forgive her. That's the thing that Carrie actually respects. Natasha is way classier than, for example, I would be. If that happened to me, I would be like, the fuck? Out of my sight. Get your face out of my sight. No. Maybe I need to work on it. I am a prideful person. It's not always good. But in this case, I would be priding. Is that a word? Sweetie, get the fuck out of my face before I call security. Carrie starts by saying that she heard about the marriage and it is terrible. She never meant for this to happen. And if she could take it all away, she would. But she can't. Insane. When I was watching this scene, I didn't know where to look. I was like, is this real? Is this really happening?
I never meant for any of this to happen. And if there was something that I could do to take it all away, I would.
Can you imagine someone being so I'm so sorry I did this. I mean, it is terrible for what happened to you. I mean, if I could take it back, I would. Honey, you're not relevant, okay? You are not relevant right now. You are not relevant to the two of them breaking up, the marriage going wrong, because the thing is that things were not okay there. Stop making yourself more than what you actually are, But I guess that's what Carrie is. Maybe that's the thing. Maybe Carrie, if we, play into it, maybe Carrie is trying to establish that she's the reason why this happened, that she needs to confront Natasha because she can feel like she actually mattered. It's not even about karma getting to her and things like that, but it's actually how she sees herself in this whole situation. And because she has difficulties accepting, technically she didn't matter, right? Big would do this with whoever, she is now trying to position herself, almost play into that she actually mattered, that she was actually the reason why this happened. Does that make sense? On the surface, she's using the fear of karma to get the forgiveness, right? But deep down, what's actually driving is the reassurance she needs that she meant something. She continues, I am deeply sorry for what I did to you. It was wrong and I am sorry.
I am deeply sorry for what I did to you. It was wrong.
I guess Natasha didn't know that. Okay, I guess Natasha was clueless that this was wrong and she needed Carrie to tell her. You can't make this shit up, okay? I mean, hopefully this is not something that can happen in real life. But Natasha, oh Natasha, is coming armed. You see, she's also sorry. She's sorry that she ever met Big. She's sorry that she married him. She is sorry that she ignored him cheating. And most of all, she is sorry that Carrie felt the need to come here and talk to her.
Now, not only have you ruined my marriage, you've ruined my lunch.
She does also say how Carrie destroyed her marriage, and honestly, that's total bullshit. I think we don't even need to go into it. If a partner steps out of the marriage to cheat with someone, it's not because of that person. Don't get it twisted. I actually knew someone who literally said, well, his wife cannot give him what I can give. Bitch, please. It's also not that you can give him something more. Don't try to flatter yourself because it's not about you, okay? You are not this crazy, special, I don't know what, that you can twist your tongue into cherry. Is that a thing? In this case, Big is the one who stepped out of the marriage. In this case, Big didn't respect the vows they shared. In this case, Big was not committed to the marriage. It has nothing to do with the third person. Though the third person might think it is, that she's so special, or the wife thinks, or in this case, Natasha would think that the third person is the reason. No. Let's stop blaming or praising the wrong person. So I think this was like a miss. Then again, it could showcase how a woman, when she gets cheated on, she does transfer some of that anger and resentment to the third person, to the other woman in this case, to Carrie in this case, because she does not want to accept that the man she fell in love with, the man she married, in this case, Big, is actually not a good person, right? But apart from that, oh, yes. I loved how she served Carrie. Especially with saying, and I feel sorry that you felt the need to come here and say this to me. Because what Carrie is doing is just, it is insane. Okay, it is pathetic. It is really, really pathetic. To think that you have such a power, right? That you broke a marriage and now you need to say you're sorry. Oh my God. I mean, the entitlement is unreal. But I'm sure we all met the type at some point in our life. It doesn't have to be a relationship. The way Natasha responded is showing that she acknowledges her mistakes, right? She accepts the situation for what it is. She accepts that this sucked, but she is also moving away from it. I got involved with the wrong man. I did some mistakes, but I'm moving forward. And she's most definitely not going to forgive the people who played a role in it. And that's kind of my attitude, to be honest. I don't know if it's correct, but I'm the type of person who's like, if my man would cheat on me and I found out, no, I don't need to forgive you and be greater. To me, that again is some kind of, holier than thou type of thing, right? I've talked about it before, right? This forgiveness and how I see it as, I'm better than everyone type of thing, which is like, no. It's also okay not to forgive. If you don't feel like it, don't do it. Move on with your life. Don't let it consume you. Maybe that's if you need to forgive because otherwise you cannot let it go. Yes, of course, do it. But otherwise, no, move on with your life. Bye-bye. Overall, I do love that the show and the writers didn't let Carrie, in this case, her character, get her forgiveness to feel better and kind of continue with her life. But they actually show that there are real consequences when you indulge in betrayal when you hurt someone like that. Not only Natasha, but how she also hurt Aiden, her partner. I appreciate that they left it at that. They left it at, Carrie, you need to deal with this on your own. You need to accept what you did and how you're gonna forgive yourself. Some mistakes are needed for you to actually do better, okay? If karma is coming, karma is coming. Deal with it. Sit down, reevaluate, and actually do better. Carrie walks away. I mean, she's basically shushed away. And she reflects. She put Natasha back on the singles market. Like there's not enough single woman out there.
My actions had set into motion a karmic chain of events, as if single women in New York didn't have it hard enough.
Knowing Carrie, maybe she's worried about the competition. She's walking down the street and she reflects. Somewhere out there, Big is alone again.
The universe may not always play fair, but at least it's got a hell of a sense of humor.
Carrie and Miranda are walking down the street and there they are. It's their exes. Steve and Aiden are sitting in a bar drinking. They quickly hide and they are like, what the F? Why are the two of them hanging out? Are they bonding over how fucked up the two of us are? But they decide to be mature. They should say hi, not run away. So they approach them and they're like, hi. Aiden doesn't seem so excited to see Carrie, while Steve is Steve. You know, he is chill. Carrie notices there are 4 glasses on the table and she's like, 4 beers? I mean, did Miranda and I fuck you up so much?
Miranda and I give you guys a drinking problem?
I don't know, what was she thinking? We're not alone. And 2 gorgeous women walk out and join Aiden and Steve. It's their girlfriends. The situation is a little bit awkward, so Carrie and Miranda are like, okay, see ya. And then they start to wonder, why do men move on so quickly? How can they already have girlfriends? Like, what is this? Hello, we have a visitor. We were just out, so I'm hoping she's gonna calm down. They have a little talk with the gals, you know? And Miranda is like, you know, this is so typical. The ratio between men and women is in men's favor. So it's easier for them to move on faster. While Charlotte is logical in her own way. You know, she is over men, to be honest. She is done with them. That's the thing. Men just live their life, move on, while women always contemplate what's wrong with them.
Women sit around obsessing about what went wrong over and over, and men just say, alrighty.
The tale old as I don't know what. I mean, who hasn't been through the how quickly who moves on and how women are all about trying to understand herself better while men just go and find another person. And I think we are adult enough to understand that it's not that simple. Charlotte is obvious in her fears, but that does spark a thought for Carrie. Is it possible? Just the thought of it shakes her up. If men are so quick to move on and find another person while women are struggling, is it possible it is not all men's fault? Ladies and gentlemen, we are landing. Move aside, make way, light the... What? Carrie is stepping off the not my fault plane that she was cruising amongst the clouds for quite some time. Look, we've seen Carrie go through it. We've known her for some time now. And yes, at the beginning, she made some bad choices because Big was leading her on. And she often blamed herself, right? She was thinking that she's too much, that she's pushing Big and this and that. So it's not like she never thought that she's the problem or there's some kind of problem with her. But season 3 Carrie was avoiding responsibility like it's a plague. On one side, you should be self-reflecting and accepting what is your role in maybe getting into a little bit of a wrong situations or bad relationships. But that doesn't neglect that there is also the other person who they themselves have a role in it, right? Big himself is not the right person for Carrie, right? Aiden, again, he is not fully fulfilling what Carrie wants in a relationship. That doesn't disappear. And when you accept that there are actually two levels, right? That there is you, but then there are also other people, then you're going to start dating, let's say, having in mind that you are searching for compatibility, partnership, where both of you align. So I would say if you're the type who tends to blame the other people, any relationship you're going to start from the sense of paranoia, waiting for when they will, in a way, betray you. And on the other hand, if you're entering a relationship where you always feel like there's something wrong with you and that you are not good enough, you're gonna end in a relationship where you're gonna be pleasing all the time, even furthermore neglecting your own individuality and basically yourself. We need to find the middle ground. I need to work on things, but I also need to get with the right person. Carrie is trying to sleep. Ring, ring. It's big.
Did I wake you? It's only 11:30.
He tells her that Natasha left. They ended things and he asks Carrie for lunch. He really needs to talk to her.
Please.
So they plan a lunch date on Saturday. Carrie is not so ready to share this little information with Miranda, who is asking her to join her for something on Saturday. Carrie's like, I can't come, but I can't really tell you why. Until she finally just says, you know what, I'm going to tell her, okay? She tells Miranda that she's meeting Big, and Miranda loses it. Miranda is like, excuse me, what? Are you freaking kidding me? Carrie says that Big really wants to talk to her and he sounded really upset. But Miranda is like, since when does Big want to talk? According to Miranda, if he's calling her for a specific thing and it ain't talking.
Since when does Big talk?
What does that mean?
Carrie, darling, we all know what's that supposed to mean. You also. Miranda is fed up. She is fed up with Carrie getting constantly involved with Big and then things going to shit. And if she's gonna get back together with Big this time, again, Miranda is out.
I'm not holding your hand through this again.
She is sick of Carrie becoming this pathetic victim every time she gets back with Big. And she keeps returning back to him.
Jesus, every time you get near him, you turn into this pathetic, needy, insecure victim. And the thing that pisses me off the most is that you're more than willing to go right back from work.
People, I'm gonna say it. It would be much, much better if Miranda would have a little bit more softer approach. You know, don't get totally mad about it. But on the other hand, I can kind of also understand it, okay? Like if you feel like you're constantly trying to help your friend or you're constantly there for her, but she keeps on making these fucked up decisions, you're like, what's my role as a friend here? Right? What do you actually respect my opinion? Do you actually think that I want good for you and sometimes you maybe listen to my advice? Or am I just someone who you dump shit on, request time, request your emotional support, but then every time you just do whatever you feel like doing? I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't in that kind of position and I felt a little bit used, okay? Of course, there is the other part where you should just be there for your friends and your girlfriends and your family and so on. But where's the limit? Here's the thing. The limit that I see is then that you just start almost being a little bit non-supportive as a friend. And by non-supportive, I mean like, okay, I can be there and just nod and say, yeah, I know, yeah. But is that really a true friend? Probably there is different situations. Maybe if you're constantly giving advice, then someone just wants, listen to me, be there for me. Don't be constantly trying to tell me what to do because that's not what I need right now. That 100% is fair. We need to somehow learn how to find that middle ground. And I guess Miranda kind of lost it. She didn't find any middle ground. She went the whole way, F you, Carrie. What would be a better approach for someone like Miranda is to say, Carrie, I'm a little bit worried. I'm afraid that he's pulling you again into his life. And are you sure that you are strong enough to actually recognize that you're not good for one another? Or where's your head at this time? Miranda could even say that she doesn't trust that Big actually wants to talk to her, to Carrie, because he loves her or something, but more because he's alone and he just needs someone, right? And that could create a space for Carrie where she would feel a little bit more comfortable to discuss that or talk about it or try to understand better. Does Carrie herself need to reevaluate a little bit and acknowledge that what Miranda is saying is true? 100%. And maybe that's the thing. Both of them should be a little bit more, soft in the approach. Also approaching it with a sense of trust. From Miranda, she could have a little bit more trust with Carrie when it comes to dealing with Big. And from Carrie, there should be a little bit more trust that Miranda actually wants good for her. It is 100% delicate situation. And as women, as girl to girl, I am 100% positive that you were put in this situation, being Carrie or being Miranda. So let me know in the comments below. How would you approach it? How did you deal with it? Let's learn together. But because Miranda was so attacking towards Carrie, Carrie put up the defenses and now she's ready to attack back. Now it's about who's worse, who's the one who is actually the fucked up, who's making stupid decisions and so on. For a person like Carrie, it is never good that she feels like you are judging her, that she feels that you are telling her that she's doing something wrong. So Carrie feels attacked and she does what she knows to do best in this kind of situation. She fires back and she uses the experience Miranda has with Steve to make Miranda feel bad.
Oh, what are you going to do, Miranda? You're going to cut me out of your life like you did to Steve? What?
And that's, again, very immature, obviously driven by the emotion. But the worst thing is when someone tells you, look, I don't think this is okay what you're doing, is for you to go, well, what about you? Do you think that I'm telling blah, 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 blah? What are you trying to do actually? Are you just trying to deflect? Instead of keeping it about the topic, now you are basically making yourself feel better by bringing another topic so that that other person should not feel the right to tell you anything because look at their life. But that's what we do. That's what we do when we feel like we need to protect ourselves or we need to defend ourselves. Carrie feels like she needs to defend herself. And the only way she knows how to defend herself in this very moment, maybe because she herself is feeling doubtful, is to put Miranda down. She is using something she knows about Miranda, something that Miranda is struggling with, to protect herself, to make herself feel better. For some context, Carrie is using the fact that Miranda cut off Steve as how bad of a person she is, when in reality, Steve is not the right person for Miranda. If Carrie was a little bit more, not driven by this emotion or not being so focused on how she's being attacked or how she needs to defend herself, she wouldn't say that to Miranda because she would recognize as a friend that Steve is actually not good for Miranda. The fact that she cut him off is the right thing to do.
The first sign of any little weakness or flaw, and you just write people off. My God, Miranda, you are so judgmental.
For Carrie, now it is much more valuable if she pokes into Miranda's own doubts about cutting people off. And I think that is nasty. I have to say that Carrie in season 3 was, she was awful. Seriously, she was awful. And she keeps on positioning herself in this victim position. Not everyone is strong as you, Miranda.
You know, everybody's not as tough as you, Miranda. Some of us make mistakes.
And my question is, well, Biz, where's the limit? When do you stop seeing yourself as this poor person who cannot stand up for herself? And when do you actually start working on being a little bit stronger? Like, how long can Carrie live in this idea of how she's just being manipulated and pushed and pulled? Like, when is she gonna take control over her own actions and behaviors and her own life at the end of the day? Her love life. Yes, Big is someone with who she developed a certain enmeshment, let's say, maybe certain attachment that it's not the healthiest for either one of them. But when is she going to take the responsibility that she's also feeding into this enmeshment? Okay? She's also feeding into this toxic attachment. That's the thing. I personally believe that when you feel like you can't let go of someone or so on, like you really need to cut it. You need to take time for yourself and you need to let that person go. The thing is, what is the craziest thing is that once you do that and once you allow the space to actually detach from this person, meaning trying to understand why do you even keep falling for them, right? Why do you get into these situations that are not good for you, for them, or for the people around you, right? When you actually understand the attachment styles, the, trauma bonding and things like that, and you let some space where you don't interact with this person, you actually cut that bond, let's say, right? But if you keep on interacting, even just fantasizing, even just like never really working on understanding what happened, but more approaching it from the sense of, oh, if only they would, or if only this and this and that, that means that you are still feeding into this bond that you have with this person. So you need to work on like releasing this bond, and you release it by actually understanding why are you not good for one another, and also letting go of the illusions of if only they would. The reality is they don't, they didn't, they won't. Okay. And even if they do, I talked about it before, usually it will maybe happen with another person, or there will be a lot of communication and a lot of therapy needed for the two of you to come together after certain boundaries have already been broken, to learn again how to reestablish them, right? Carrie comes home and she is surprised that Miranda hasn't left an apology on the machine yet.
I was going to call her, but I wasn't quite sure what to say or whose fault it really was.
And a part of me is thinking, does Carrie need an apology from Miranda more than she actually expects it? Meaning, if Miranda apologizes, it allows Carrie to actually meet up with Big. It allows Carrie to maybe, again, not learn anything. But as long as Miranda is standing by her word that she's not, she thinks that Carrie's making a mistake, in some way, because it's so much into her face, Carrie herself doesn't really, want to maybe even do it, or she feels guilty about doing it. So it's not so much about how she thinks that Miranda crossed the line and she should apologize. It's more about she needs that apology so she can do whatever she then wants to do, even if it's bad for her. Now, unfortunately, because Miranda herself has doubts about her coldness, let's say, something that's always thrown at her, she actually feels like she's the bad person. She actually starts thinking that, what if I did make a mistake with Steve, which is totally unfair? Steve is not good for her.
Carrie and I had a huge fight.
Yeah? About what?
Steve, I didn't throw you away, did I?
No.
To me personally, this does show how Miranda actually sees Carrie as a friend. Because if Carrie expressed that, then Miranda feels that maybe there's some truth to it and she feels bad about it. While Carrie is not like that. Carrie is only a friend when it serves her. Because Carrie doesn't seem to think that Miranda has some truth to it, right? At least not for a little bit more. Carrie is about to meet Big for lunch. But before she enters the restaurant, she calls Miranda. She wants to know if Miranda really thinks that she is pathetic.
I was just going to call you.
Do you really think I'm pathetic?
Miranda takes everything back. She apologizes and she was too harsh with Carrie. And it sucks. Okay, it sucks because it is bullshit. Here's the thing. Miranda is going through her own thing with Steve, okay? So her now kind of apologizing to Carrie and saying to Carrie that it's okay, what does she know, right? What do I know if this is good? No, Miranda, you do know. You know Carrie, you know the history with Big, you know that this is not okay. But because she's dealing with her own stuff and her own doubts, she doesn't really look at it clearly. She's not saying this from a place of confidence and trust, but more from a place of confusion and, like I said, doubting her own self for her own actions, even though those are good. And it sucks because both of these women now coming back together and kind of apologizing are doing it thinking that they are being a good friend to one another. As much as it might seem this is true friendship, right? It really isn't. Because it's more about preserving the friendship than to actually help and support. And I wonder how often this happens in real life when we are so afraid of losing a friendship that we fail to be true friends. This is how I see what's happening between Miranda and Carrie. As cute it is for the two of them to come together, it is basically based on wrong things.
But if I'm totally wrong and it is a huge mistake, I need to know you'll be there for me.
I'm there.
And as much as no one should force another person to do something, okay, just because we see certain things in certain ways, I do wish that we as friends would also have a little bit more trust in ourselves when we do see things that are wrong for our friends, where we do notice things that are not the best. And instead of saying, oh, what do I know? Like, believe it. You do know. You are there also. Now, does it mean that the person needs to follow you 100% and that you know everything? Not at all, because we all have our own perspectives. But to totally neglect that, right? It's also not beneficial. I don't think it is. For example, if Miranda would say, look, Carrie, I still think that this is not the best decision, but at the end of the day, I do understand if you're gonna do what you need to do. Take into consideration that there is something that it's not really okay when it comes to Big, that you do change, that you do things that are not really you, and don't go again into it just blindly. Middle ground, people, middle ground. Don't threaten like Miranda did, but also don't totally let it go, okay? Find the middle ground. She does advise Carrie not to kiss Big because that's where usually the trouble starts. So there they are, Carrie and Big. They're finally both single. So maybe this is now the right time. Big tries to kiss Carrie, and as Carrie is avoiding, they fall into the lake. They needed some cold water to splash them. This is very funny. They laugh about it. I mean, it is funny. And basically, they end up at his place where Carrie took a shower. Now, Big is sitting on the bed and Carrie joins him. And behind them, there is this big effing red wall. It's something new Big is trying, making his red flags a little bit more visible, I guess. He asks Carrie if it was really all his fault, and Carrie says it wasn't.
Man, we really screwed that up. What were we thinking?
They laugh a bit, and Big wants to know, how are you doing, kiddo? Carrie is feeling pretty good, and they basically bond over the shit they've been through, war buddies who just fell into these terrible things. Big admits that he actually likes living alone again, and Carrie is not surprised. She decides to leave, and when Big asks her why won't she stay a little bit longer, she refers to the wall.
Because, sweet friend, you and I are like that red wall. It's a good idea in theory, but somehow doesn't quite work.
She doesn't know what exactly Big and her are right now, but they definitely aren't us anymore. And this is how season 3 ends, with Carrie walking away from Big. And honestly, I loved it. I feel like it was a little tiny bit of character development. But I wonder, was it actually her recognizing it? Or did she get a little bit of help when Big expressed that he likes living alone again? That to me kind of stood out. You see, the whole point when it comes to Carrie and Mr. Big is his need for commitment. If you think about it, the fact that he is not now pursuing Carrie when the marriage ended and so on, and he actually likes to live alone, could indicate that at the end of the day, Big didn't want commitment with Carrie. And that's what she recognized, being there in this room and him saying that he actually likes to live alone. He knows Carrie. He knows that that's not something that she wants. For me personally, if I would believe that Carrie actually understood that her and Big are not the right for one another, she wouldn't even agree to have lunch with him. Okay? I think she was driven to have this lunch for the potential of the two of them, but then she was kind of hit again, realizing that no, it ain't happening because he's clearly not ready. How do you see this situation, huh? And try to give an answer that is not influenced by the fact that we know that they come back together eventually. Would we feel the same if that wasn't the storyline? But before we get into that storyline, there is someone who comes back to Carrie's life. Well, at least a version of who he was before. So how will Carrie handle the new Aiden? And remember, trust your individuality.